You're listening to the Telltale Channel. Don't forget to check me out on all social media: Patreon, Twitter, Teespring, and Etsy. All links can be found in the description or on my website, telltaleatheist.com. So the next article I want to take a look at is entitled, Pat Robertson, If the Equality Act Passes, God Will Destroy America. That's a pretty lofty claim, so let's give it a read and see what it has to say. This is by Hemant Mehta. During today's episode of the 700 Club, during a discussion about the Equality Act, which would protect LGBTQ people from employment discrimination, Pat Robertson claims that passing the bill would lead God to destroy America, because there's nothing the Christian God hates more than civil rights. Well, I mean, the bastardized version of Christianity that evangelical Christians believe in today hates civil rights, certainly. I have to agree with you on that one. But what is the Equality Act? I wanted to read a little bit more about it just to kind of get an idea of what it is and why Christians hate it, basically. So let's just read this little section right here on this website, hrc.org, and see what it says. Is this Hillary? Oh, no, this is Human Rights Campaign. I thought it was going to be HillaryRodham-Clinton.org, but no, it's Human Rights Campaign. What an acronym. So let's read it and see what it says. The Equality Act would provide consistent and explicit non-discrimination protections for LGBTQ people across key areas of life, including employment, housing, credit, education, public spaces and services, federally funded programs, and jury service. The Equality Act would amend existing civil rights law, including the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Fair Housing Act, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, the Jury Selection and Services Act, and several laws regarding employment with the federal government, to explicitly include sexual orientation and gender identity as protected characteristics. The legislation also amends the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to prohibit discrimination in public spaces and services and federally funded programs on the basis of sex. Solid act! Who could complain against this? It's being inclusive and protecting people's rights. I don't get who could possibly be against this. I'm so for this. Additionally, the Equality Act would update the public spaces and services covered in current law to include retail stores, services such as banks and legal services, and transportation services. These important updates would strengthen existing protections for everyone. Decades of civil rights history show that civil rights laws are effective in decreasing discrimination because they provide strong federal remedies targeted to specific vulnerable groups, but explicitly including sexual orientation and gender identity in these fundamental laws, LGBTQ people will finally be afforded the exact same protections as other covered characteristics under federal law. Who could possibly complain about this? Who could possibly complain about this? This is such a straightforward yes vote. Seriously. If we want to make sure black folks are not discriminated against in job hiring practices or jury selection or selection in services or any other situation, if we want to make sure black people aren't being discriminated against in those situations, we should want to make sure nobody is. Why would anybody be in favor of discriminating against somebody based on anything? Just service people like you're supposed to. This is absurd. Why are you being exclusive? Why are you trying to exclude people from stuff? It blows my mind. Seriously. Anyways, point is, Pat Robertson had some things to say about the Equality Act, so let's continue reading. This is a quote from Right Wing Watch. Pat Robertson warns that passage of the Equality Act will cause God to destroy America. Let's watch this little clip and see what Pat Robertson says.
What's going to happen to our country if we let that continue? It'll be such a confused mess. And before long, a righteous God will do to us what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. We don't want that to happen. We don't want to have happen what happened to those old civilizations that have gone down the tube. This is the greatest nation on the face of the earth, but we can't do it if we violate God's law continuously.
Okay. He says Sodom and Gomorrah went down the tubes because of their treatment of gay people, I guess, or whatever. Wrong. Pat Robertson has not read the Bible, obviously. Sodom and Gomorrah, the two cities, were supposedly destroyed because of their ill treatment of the poor. not because of their homosexual behavior or whatever. And for the record, God didn't destroy those cities. I don't know if I had to say that, but I'm just making sure that it's on record so everybody is aware that that story is made up anyways, even if the Bible did say it was because of their treatment of homosexuals. Complete bullshit from beginning to end. But anyway, let's continue reading what Hemant Mehta had to say here. This is a quote from the video. What's going to happen to our country if we let that continue? It'll be such a confused mess, and before long, a righteous God will do to us what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. We can't do it if we violate God's law continuously. This is Hemant Mehta speaking now. Somehow the country survived marriage equality in 8 years under President Obama, but preventing Christian business owners from firing someone for being transgender will anger God so much that he'll throw burning sulfur on all of us. Here's a thought. Maybe the problem isn't LGBTQ people, but God's anger management issues. The Equality Act was passed by the House in May, but Republicans in the Senate won't act on it, because of course they won't. Why would they? It would make a lot of people's lives significantly better, and that goes against everything Republicans stand for. I am not for hyperpartisanship. I have no issue with conservatives. No issue with conservatism in general. I love talking about this stuff. I love working through these ideas with people. I'm obviously on the more liberal side. I talk about liberal ideals and things like that. But I'm not against conversation and debate. I love it. I love it. I love talking to conservatives about their beliefs and working through why they believe that, things like that. But the Republican Party and conservatism are two different things. The Republican Party, I believe, is forming a cult. I do not say that lightly. And there's a lot of nuance to it. But that's what I see happening. And Donald Trump is kind of leading that at this immediate moment. But there's almost like, it looks like there's almost a power struggle happening right now between like Donald Trump and the establishment Republicans. Like some of the establishment Republicans are siding with Trump and some aren't. It's really bizarre to see. And I would absolutely love to be a fly on the wall in some of those rooms where those conversations are taking place to see what people are saying. It would be fascinating. I'm really concerned about the direction of the Republican Party, the direction that Donald Trump is taking people. But honestly, this kind of thing is very, very expected from Pat Robertson. I'm not even surprised to hear him say things like this. What surprises me is when I hear him side against Donald Trump, or when I hear him say something critical of the Republican Party. Like, that blows my mind. And it does happen from time to time. It's rare, but it happens.